Puerto Rico has been a territorial possession of the United States for 100 years. In 1917, its inhabitants became U.S. citizens, and in 1952, a form of local self-government called Commonwealth was authorized. In 1993, voters overwhelmingly called for change, and today, Puerto Ricans are debating what kind of change that should be. Alexander Odeshalidze, a writer, editor, and financial advisor, began life behind the Iron Curtain in the former Yugoslavia. As a young man, he fled to the West and was granted asylum in the United States. For the past 30 years, he's lived in Puerto Rico and has become an advocate for a self-determination process for the island which would lead to a permanent political status.
I am concerned about my island. After 100 years of colonialism, the nearly 4 million inhabitants here remain squatters in our own land. We are American citizens, but we are not represented in Congress, and we cannot vote for the President of the United States. Neither are we a separate nation with our own internationally recognized government. We govern ourselves locally, but the U.S. Congress still calls the shots. This dilemma has stalled our economic growth and spawned a host of social problems. We have become dependent on the U.S. taxpayers for our economic existence. We have become a vehicle for outrageous tax breaks for U.S. corporations. Puerto Rico is sitting on a powder keg with the fuse burning. Only by a change to a permanent political status can we keep our economy buoyant. This crisis led me to become an activist for change and to write my book, Puerto Rico at the Crossroads. It has just been released, and I am beginning to discuss it on radio and television programs throughout the country.
If the House approves it today, what would happen?
This book takes the position that it is the current political structure that is the cause of the island's stagnation. It argues that without change, the island will become completely dependent on the U.S. taxpayers to prop up its economy at the prohibitive cost of $14 billion each year and growing. This current political structure is called Commonwealth. Established by Congress in 1952, it was intended as a temporary status, allowing Puerto Rico to gain control over certain local functions while it developed to the point where it could join the Union as a state or go its own way as an independent nation. It was never meant to relegate the island to a permanent political limbo. It was never meant to create the present economic purgatory. Nor was it meant to create a political caste system that makes the status option the sole basis for political debate. Although we're considered to enjoy democracy, this colonial status has kept political power in the hands of the elite while denying the people of Puerto Rico a voice in the U.S. Congress, the institution that holds our future in its grip. In the last election, over 80% of eligible voters cast ballots. We know the rules of democracy, but the present system does not allow us to exercise it. And so, we're at the crossroads. If we take one road, the one leading us to either statehood or independence, we can take charge of our own destiny. We can diversify our economy, attract investment, reform our social structures. But if we continue on the other road, the so-called Commonwealth road, we will continue as a tax gimmick and welfare economy, which will lead to bankruptcy and social chaos. Then, the U.S. taxpayers can add its only colony, Puerto Rico, to its list of bailout candidates. For the past 3 years, I have been informing members of the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives that Puerto Ricans want change, and it is the responsibility of the Congress to provide the mechanism to facilitate that change. That is the American way, the democratic way. My message to your voting representatives, remember that I don't have any here, is to stop the tax gimmicks and giveaways and give the island a chance to pay its own way. This boondoggle has got to stop. We want to pay our own way or go our own way. My book uses official government reports to show that, as a state of the United States, our accelerated economic growth would create a surplus of income to the federal treasury. Over 10 years, it would place some $100 billion into the pockets of U.S. taxpayers. My request to these distinguished men and women is to give Puerto Rico one thing and one thing only: a chance to choose. Anything else is fiscally irresponsible. On March 4th, the U.S. House of Representatives, after 12 hours of public debate, passed H.R. 856. This bill would give us a chance to vote for a change in our political status, which will help put our economy on solid footing while saving U.S. taxpayers $14 billion a year.
The resolution is agreed to and the bill is passed without objection.
Self-determination for my island is a defining issue for America. After 100 years, it is a chance for our nation to enter into the 21st century free from the vestiges of colonialism and, most importantly, it is a chance for Congress to fulfill the guarantees of our Constitution and Bill of Rights for the 3.8 million American citizens of Puerto Rico. We have sacrificed for the nation of our citizenship. Proportionate to our population, we have served America in uniform in higher numbers than any other state, and the death and casualty rate have been correspondingly high. Puerto Rico will succeed either as a state or as an independent country. As a state, we would bring much to the national table: a well-educated and energetic people, a strategically situated Caribbean island, and 4 million loyal American citizens. As an independent country, we will become a strong ally. My book, Puerto Rico at the Crossroads, gives details as to how and why. And the future of my home, America's oldest colony, is stalled at this intersection.